Hello friends, welcome back. This is full stack development series. We're building online course enrollment app. This is episode 4. In this video, I'm going to show you how to start with a new project, and then we'll walk you through the application, the default template, and then a basics of components, and we'll build a couple of components and see how the UI looks with. So this is just to start with. There are a lot of stuff to learn. So without delay, come let's get started. So friends, before we dive in, this is the GitHub link where you will find every single project that I'm demonstrating. So feel free to go through and browse whichever project you like. For this specific video, I will post the exact link of the repository in the video description itself. If you would like to follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and GitHub, these are the links that you can click and follow me. I will be more than happy to collaborate with you. So don't forget to follow me. Now let's dive into the video. So let's take a look, right? This is how we will end up in the end of this video. So you'll see a good website like this. The home page will have this kind of a carousel, and then few more pages that we will build, and I will show you how you can utilize these components, how to build this kind of a nice stuff, right? Later in the course, we will be putting this into different routes, a lot of stuff, right? So this is what we are going to start. I've named it as a Smart Learn by Karthik. Let me know your opinion. This is what the application I will eventually deploy like that. So first is the installation stuff, right? So if you go to this Angular installation, see this is the prerequisite. You need to have the Node.js and the text editor and the terminal. So the first thing is nodejs.org. Download according to your OS, right? So I'm using Windows. I'll be downloading it. You can change this to whatever OS you have and then download the latest. As of this video, 20 at least is the LTS version. Next is Visual Studio Code. If you already have it, well and good. If not, code.visualstudio.com. It's a free version. After you install both, open the terminal, which is the PowerShell. If you put terminal, whatever is opening is called Windows PowerShell. Now here, we are going to use a command given by the Angular to install the Angular CLI, right? Command line interface in your local machine. So npm install -g followed by that name will give you the installation of ng. Now just to verify you've installed, ng -- version will give you the ng version, which is Angular version. Npm version will give you, and then node version also. Okay, so these three things you should have like that, and then installation is done, well and good. So now what we are going to do is we're going to use the Bootstrap 5 CSS, like basic CSS. We're not going to use any templates. So in order to get the Bootstrap 5, right, this is the website, this is the official website. If you know the history, this is from the Twitter company, which is now X, called as X. Anyway, so we need to use this CSS and the JS bundle, and we are going to start with a new application. So open your place wherever you want to start, and then say ng new followed by the project name. So I'm going to give this project name as ng new online course UI. And then it'll ask you what kind of CSS that you're going to use, right? I'm going to use CSS, and then this is something important. I will say no because this is a separate concept called server-side rendering, which will be like it will do everything at server-side. And when the browser wants to render it, it don't need to parse anything. Okay, so we will talk about that in a separate concept. Anyway, so now we are going to switch the directory to the project that we created, and then use code space dot. So that will open up the Visual Studio Code inside the project location. Okay, so that's the shortcut. So once it opens, it's gonna be like this. I'm gonna expand it. Let's go over the default template which is created. Okay, so you can see something called node modules. That's the one which is installed after the project was created, and something called source under that app. So see, right now there's only one concept called one component and some default sites. And this is the index.html which is initially loaded. Okay, and you see this under the body, there is something called app root. We'll talk about those things. So that's the starting position, right? Starting place. And then package.json will tell you the dependencies, the script that we need to execute, those kind of things. So right now we're using Angular 18, so that's why you can see all these Angular dependencies 18. And there's another concept called angular.json. This is also the Angular configuration where you can customize, you can have the styles, scripts, and different environment configurations and all can be done here. Okay, and if you go to app.routes, like we enable the routing, so it has just created the route, but it doesn't have any routes. We will add it later. And then app.config.ts, this is the place where we configure the application settings. Now the first one is component, right? So if you see a class that is decorated by a name called component, that class becomes a component. Component is nothing but a piece of a code, a piece of logic, right, which can be reused. So basically it will have CSS, HTML and some logic. So logic is written in component.ts, and then it will have its own HTML and CSS. So let's go over the properties. Select that. This is the name that you will use to use this component. So the moment you say app root, this component will be utilized. Standalone tells you true or false, and we are going to use the standalone. Standalone is like, it doesn't need to be a part of any ng module. It can be its own, like he himself is a hero, right? So that's why standalone is it's easy to develop, no tightly coupled things. Imports concept will come only for standalone is true. Okay, so where you import other components, modules and all of those things here itself under the component itself. Okay, and then there are two more things called template URL and style URL. There is something called template itself. Like template means where you can write the HTML in this place itself, and if the HTML is too much, you can separate that as a separate file and you can say template URL. So if you see app.component.html, that's the file that is being pointed from here. We are saying, hey, for this component, HTML is all located in the app.component.html. Similarly, app.component.css will have all the CSS that is related to this component. Okay, and then inside this component, like you will have the variables and all other logics that we will talk about as we move forward, but this is the default code that was generated. Okay, so in this whole template we have only one component called app component, and that is where everything is loaded. If you see the default template, it is giving some Angular information. So all of those things, right, from the top till here, we don't need it, meaning it's just a template. Okay, so this place, line number 336 is called router outlet, where the routing comes into picture. Basically imagine this, right? Router outlet is a placeholder. Based on the routing mechanism that we will define, this is the place where the components are dynamically loaded. So in a website, if you see, side navigation and the top navigation will always be there. Inside center of the content alone will keep changing, right? That is what it is. So we will have our Navbar, we have our header bar and all static like components. The other routing comes into this kind of a router outlet concept. Okay, so we'll see. And then you see any file that is ending with .specs.ts is all called unit testing files. Okay, great. So we have some understanding of these things. Let's start creating the component. So go to terminal and create a terminal. Here you have to use either ngserve or so ngserve. Basically ngserve is the place where you will start the application. You see this, you can either use ngserve directly or npm run and you specify what script it is, start. That will eventually kick in and say ngserve, and this is what default port is. Okay, so default port is 4200. You saw the component, the home component was having some CSS. That is what it is. So we are going to change that page into this kind of pages. We're going to dismantle all of these things. We're going to create how our end output is. Okay, so that's the idea. Now in order to create a component, you can do it from our existing terminal or leave the terminal as it is running and create a new terminal. Okay, so you can go from the top, create terminal, or in the side you can create. Now there is something called CLI commands. So ng space generate space component followed by the component name. That is one way of generating the component. The short form is ngg space c followed by the component name. So here component/core means two folders. So inside those two folders, about this component is created. You see this? The CLI command is able to create as the component, and whenever the component is created, there will be 4 files: spec files, HTML, CSS and TS file. Now we created two components, right? We created a home component, we created, what do you call that, like about us component. So how do you use this component, right? We know what is components are. Components are nothing but a piece of a small HTML that is rendered. Now in order to use the component, you select the selector, go to any of this HTML like this, and then you can specify the component here. So let's say I am selecting this, removing it, or default content. Here you can say anything that will be rendered there. So let's see I wrote Karthik here, right? So Karthik here came, all of those initial code went off, right? Now here you can use the components. Let's say app dash home. See, the error went. Actually what happened is, if you go to component.ts, you will see the import of a component was automatically done by the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so the component has to be in the import, and then once you commit, like you can see the home component coming here, right? So what happened is, a piece of information that is stored in the home was displayed. Now the first idea is to bring up the Navbar. See, whatever I'm going to use in this project is like purely bootstrap file. So as long as you know CSS and HTML, well and good. So in order to get to the same UI, we need to use the CSS and the JavaScript bundle in the index.html. The reason I'm placing script in the end of the body is, if you put the script in the starting, it will block the whole page until it is loaded. Okay, anybody's internet is slow, they will see some bad experience. Anyway, now we create a Navbar component, same thing, ng generate component. Now what I'm going to do is, right, I'm going to go to this Navbar component and use the default Navbar example given in the bootstrap documentation. You can always customize, but I'm just telling you from where I'm picking up these codes, and then later I'm customizing, right? So if I copy paste that piece of code to the Navbar HTML like this, not exactly, like I already did that, so I'm going to use that Navbar HTML. This one has just the pure HTML, and then we need to copy paste some CSS, which I did. Okay, so for you guys, if you ask me, hey, where is my CSS? Yes, of course you will have the code ready when you watch this video, so feel free to take the CSS code from those components. Okay, so now the data is not coming. Why? Because nav component is never selected here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use the nav component on the main app component. Okay, so app component is the parent. Now from there only everything is loaded. Okay, so I'm going to put the app nav bar here. See, this also got imported. Now after you put this, you can also put as many as other components, but let's stick to it. So all my idea is, after the navbar, which is taking the full width, I'm going to put everything in the center of the screen. So class container, right? Container is a CSS class. You can read about it in the CSS, like the bootstrap CSS. It is going to bring up all the stuff in the center. You see this? We got an navbar, and in the center we have the components. That's why the home works is in the little bit in the side. You see this? It's all in the center, right? So container means all of those things are placed in the center of the screen. Great. So next, Navbar is coming, right? Next is home page. So in order to build a home where we have this carousel, right, we can either use bootstrap, or I am going to use some package called ngx-bootstrap. See, ngx-bootstrap is mainly built for this Angular. Very good. They are up to date with 18, and it has a lot of good components that you can use handy, like the carousel, accordion, progress bar, model, this, that, so many stuff, right? So I'm going to teach you how you can use external packages as well. In order to use that, you need to install the package. So I copied the command npm install package name --save. --save will save the ngx bootstrap package in the package.json. You can see here. See, it's added here. Great. So we deal with the latest one. That's why we don't specify the version. It's added, and all what we have to do is we just need to know how to make use of it. So they have given an example of how, like what, based on which component you're using, you need to import those modules into our modules. We're going to use the carousel component, which is carousel module. So this module, okay, we need to import it in our Angular application. So since we are using Angular 18 standalone, it'll be a little bit different where you will import this. Okay, so for ng module, they have given example of where to import all of those things. If you follow the documentation, you'll be able to succeed, but ours is standalone. So in order for us to succeed, we have to come here, app.component. Remember, we do not have ng module. This is standalone. Here we have to provide something called import providers from. You need to specify the module here. I'm going to use the carousel module, so I will use carousel module.forRoot. Done. Come to home component and import the carousel module here. Great. So this module, the moment you import in the home component, anything related to the carousel, you can use it in the home component. So I'm going to copy a piece of code which they have given as an example. You see this with animation. Let's copy this. I'm going to copy this. You can feel free to modify whichever carousel you want so that you will learn. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it in the home component.html. And then if you look at this image is not there in the asset folder. We do not have asset folder itself. So what I did is, to get to that image, I actually already downloaded that image and kept it in this place. So it is there inside the skills. Okay. So now I'm going to use the images that is inside my project. Like, remember, you will not have it. You put your own image or copy it from wherever I'm giving it. Okay. So I'm going to go inside this and then do quickly bring up the images. Right. So the fifth image. Okay. So I'm going to copy paste these things and then change the image name. So it displays different images. Okay. You see this? Images is not coming. Okay, this is because the Angular application is already running, if you remember, right? So any modules or any assets that was recently copy pasted will not know. It will not be in the output directory, meaning it has not exported temporarily in its built content. How do you solve this? Go to angular.json. Under the assets, tell Angular that copy the asset folder also. You see this? Whatever I copy pasted, that's a configuration that we are saying, hey, copy the asset folder also, and then stop the server and start the server. Okay. Now what will happen? It will pick it up. See, it's coming. Okay. So this is how you have to solve. You should know what's going on and then you can solve it nicely. So we were able to do this. Now I copy pasted few more HTML just to bring up some nice stuff. You see this? Okay, this doesn't look good. This is all because of the CSS. So I copy pasted the CSS and you see this? Now it looks good. Okay, so let's go over and tell you. So go to this home.component.css. All of these HTML is loaded there. You see this? All the skills you need in one place. And then the CSS is in the component. And the CSS are in the home.component.cs. Now, next is we're going to build a page called plans and pricing component. Okay, again, plans and pricing component is pure HTML. It doesn't have anything to do with Angular. Okay, so whatever you're seeing is the plan.pricing component. So that component can be imported into another component. It's like component inside a component. Okay, that's possible. So I am going to do that. Okay, instead of copy pasting the plans and pricing component content inside the home, I am putting that into a separate component, and then in line number 37 I actually use that component. So the home component will render its code as well as the code which is inside the plans and pricing component. Okay, so piece of code, another piece of code. So from the UI perspective, it will be like all of the HTML showing up, but actually we are going to reuse it. So later, right, when we have to put into the routing mechanism, we can make use of this component in multiple places. So if I open up the UI, you can see the pricing and plan and pricing component is showed here. So this is our first step. I hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, do subscribe to my channel, share this with your friends. Don't forget to follow the complete series. You'll be the one of the best full stack developer after the series is done. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!